Okay, so let's actually start. Welcome to the stream, everyone. As promised last time, today we will do a purely refactoring live stream, which means that we won't implement any new features, but we will spend all of our time cleaning up the existing code that has kind of accumulated over time. Of course, in between we will also have Q&A sessions as always, so we will actually have the first one right now. So please keep your questions for these. And in between we can just, I guess, discuss the code together and how we could improve it and make it cleaner. Some of you said that the microphone is a little too quiet. I will try to bump it up just a notch and hope that it won't. Okay, but no, it's overdriving. It's really hard to set just right. Okay. So yeah, please, a couple of you already had questions regarding the game. Please ask them again. Right now. Alright, is the default highway across region thing a permanent thing? Do you intend on having highway stubs? Do you want to allow for flexible regional connections? I personally like the freeway inclusion so long as it can have the shit upgraded out of it. Right now it's basically hard-coded that there's this one connection through each new map, like you can see here. But I don't think I want it fully flexible, that you can just choose how many connections to neighboring cities you have and kind of exploit that. Rather, I want it in a way where the neighboring cities have to offer you new connections based on the development of your city and their city, and the demand there is for commute or tourism, for example. So you will probably, like you describe it, get these kind of highway stubs that you can connect to, and that will get upgraded from time to time, and you will also get completely new connections from time to time. These might, for example, also be train connections, or it might be something like an unlock of the airport building or something like that. Any other questions? What's the upper limit on size? Is there a hard-coded limit or is it just practicality? Right now the size is fixed to, I think, let me actually check, 50 by 50 kilometers. Yes, I think so. Terrain is, yeah, 50 by 50 kilometers. Of course, there will be always the limit of practicality, and this will probably be what I will struggle with and work on most of the time to make everything more performant, to make bigger cities possible. Right now, gameplay isn't even at a point where I can find out what the biggest size is, but as soon as it is, I will try to keep pushing the envelope. What do you mean with customization? Yeah, that's also how I want it. Like, have the small initial road that will be updated according to demand. Hi Denemy, mir geht's gut und dir? Yeah, that's true. You can just organically add several smaller towns, for example, and have them grow together. Just because the map size is that big. I think in the plain game you will be able to mainly just take control over density or height of buildings, and everything else will be completely procedural. But either mods, or if I have the feeling that more control should be in the game, I will offer it. You can have more control over the procedural building generation, stuff like setback or what have you, like stylistic limitations on buildings. But I will have to see about that. First, you will only be able to set density. Do you intend to go into land features and formations? There's a very close link between geography and city design, and I always loved playing with that. Making impossibly big cities on huge mod maps in SimCity was always fun. Yes, I said several times that terrain is something really important to me, and not only for this game, but in general, a topic that is very close to my heart. I really want Citybound to have beautiful landscapes that kind of require your creativity to build a city on. But also, as I said, I will first implement the core gameplay basically on a plane and make everything work and kind of balance. And as soon as that's playable, I will start to implement terrain and connect everything to that. Yeah, there are several different scenarios where a city could start, and the port is one. You might, in another case, also only have just a railroad connection, for example. I'm doing great, and you, Shock to Provide? Nice to have you. What am I most excited to put into Citybound? I don't think there is one thing that I'm most excited to put into Citybound. Terrain is definitely one of them. But I think what I really want to achieve is this feeling of having this huge city, but still being connected to every single citizen, where you can click on them and find out stuff about them, and kind of think about how you can improve the life of every single citizen with the decisions that you make. If I achieve to create this feeling, I think Citybound will be great. No, I spell it usually with a lowercase b, just as one word, Citybound. Yeah, self-sufficiency in the beginning is a good idea. I think in the real world, most smaller cities just get these kinds of utilities from neighboring bigger cities. So that should be fine. You just get an initial amount of power and water and so on. Will there be land value, and will it influence wealth? Yes, there will definitely be a land value system, and it will of course determine who can afford to live where. Pollution will be a factor. We kind of half implemented that already. Noise from roads might be one, and other stuff as well. Is there yet a way for me to pre-order the game and receive future updates? Not really. I don't want to sell it at this point, but if you want, you can donate more than $6, and you get the promise from me that I will give you the alpha and all future updates once they're done. But please don't really consider it as a pre-order. I don't want to do that yet. What's the immediate direction of the game? What are the priorities after basic AI and economy utilities? More in-depth food system, random events. After basic AI and economy, I think the first will actually be different modes of transport. And then probably terrain, and only then utilities, I think. I hope that makes sense. But I don't really know in more detail myself. I just always try to do the next necessary step and see where it brings me. When should we expect geometrical lots in buildings which use their lot sizes in a smart way, I guess, and cover big zoned areas? The revamped zoning and lot generation system is something that I want to work on soon. But first I want to get traffic fixed and work a little more on the economy. After that I will do nicer lot generation. Yeah, that's an interesting observation and idea. Yeah, if it eventually gets added to Steam, of course everyone who bought it will receive keys. $6 is not enough, I agree, but right now it is, because the game is in a really early stage, and this will also be the price that I sell the alpha for. As the game gets more feature complete, I will start asking for more money. In other city sims, agriculture isn't that important or even not featured. How important is it in Citybound? Well, especially in the beginning of a new city, it's really important because other cities don't supply that much food, and it is the most basic resource that people need. Before a couple updates ago, it was really necessary even to build agriculture. Now with the neighboring cities reacting to demands as well, you can kind of you can have them handle that just by creating a lot of demand for agriculture. They will start to build agriculture and export food to you, but you always have the option of doing that yourself, which will be slightly more efficient and cheaper. So I would say that agriculture plays an important part in Citybound. To what extent will Citybound get into legal and governmental issues, e.g. ordinances, elections, government buildings like police, etc.? There won't really be politics, but there will be stuff like local ordinances. There won't be elections, you will just be kind of mayor or almost god over the city for life. But there will of course be government buildings like police that can dispatch agents to deal with crime. Could the economy take into account the reputation of a city? A tiny town is not going to be serviced by goods, but is going to offer a bunch of jobs offsite. I see what you mean by that. Yeah, the question is how you would model such a reputation. I mean, one way in which a bigger city already draws much more new people into it is caused by the competition that I added, the competition factor, because if all shops in a city compete over a portion of the demand, for a bigger city you can actually have more shops because that section that they compete over will be larger. I hope that makes sense. In terms of what kinds of jobs are offered and more detailed differences, I'm not sure yet how I will model it, but it's a good thing to keep in mind. Yeah, I mean, there is already something like an in-game GDP, and well, the population right now doesn't age at all. They're all like middle-aged working people, so there isn't any demographics yet. But as soon as they are implemented, they will of course become important. All right, your last questions for this round, please, and then we'll start with some refactoring. What exactly do you mind? I mean, where in SimCity do politics come into play? Like, do you have a concrete example for that? Thanks, you're making me blush. How will tourism work? Good question, I have no idea yet. Alright, I'll get some water, give Flow Engineers some more time to come up with an example, and then we'll start. Melon, who basically I said there is already a GDP and there aren't demographics yet because everyone is just middle-aged working class basically, but as soon as they are, they will of course make a difference. Okay, so how about we get started, and the way we will do it at first is just to look at some files where, or modules where know that they're very messy and verbose, and we'll just have like a visual look and see repeating patterns and try to simplify them. But first let me answer Flow Engineer's question. I see. Okay, I just wanted to be like this interesting decision, but it wasn't actually interesting because it didn't affect gameplay in any way. Yeah, okay, that's a bad example to keep in mind, I guess. Alright, so one of the things that's currently very verbose is this household types, this collection of all household types, because if you look at it here on the right in this kind of minimap that Sublime Text has, you can see a lot of repeating patterns, and there is a lot of stuff that is not needed. For example, what I always try to go for, and I will try to explain why I do some of the refactors I will do today. One thing that's always good is if you have a lot of data, because data is declarative and you can easily work with it. But if you kind of declare data in code like we do here for our consumptions, that's kind of bad because you have a lot of state in there and it's difficult to change. So one of the first things that I want to do is to kind of move these production, consumption, and sales values into the initial data for our household here. The reason why it's written in the way it currently is basically we can only start out with empty production and then use the function that is used to update the production values of a household to actually set the initial value. But a simple way to do that would be to, let me think how to do that. Would be to, in our add household function, we want to do some initialization work, so we don't have to do that here. So I mean that sounds a bit strange if you don't know what's happening in my head, but let me try to just do it and then explain it on the go. So okay. We want to, where's our add household? Here. So here what we want to do is for each initial production value that is given, we want to call this, okay. Or wait, how do we want to do that? The reason why it's so complicated in the first place is that in order to manage our large-scale economy, we have to keep track both of the individual consumption, production, and sales of each household, as well as the total citywide production, consumption, and sales. So this is why we have these complicated update functions here that kind of update both the consumption of our household as well as the one of our city. All right. So what we want to do is take account of initial production, consumption, and sales. And for that, we are going to first look at our household daily production. And we want to iterate over the keys. And for each of them, this is going to be a produced resource type. We want to use what we use here, our update daily production function. Why not guesstimate? Basically, it's harder to guesstimate than to just keep accurate track of everything. Let me actually reword the scale track. Then we have produced resource type, and our value is the initial value. Now, in order for our calculations to make sense, we have to now set that these are now part of the city total. And then we just have to do the same for consumption and sales. So here we want consumption, and here we want sold resource type. Not sold, but consumed. Let's actually try to keep the order. Okay, the order is not consistent at all. So let's also fix that. Let's always have consumption, production, sales. Consumption, production, sales. Consumption, production, sales. And now we should be able to rewrite our household types and kind of enter the values that we specify here in our initial production. So okay, we might want to call these not empty but new. You will see why in a second. And then given consumption, given values, and we want to either use a given value for each resource or 0. Now we have to replace all of these. And now we can, for our production, we can enter just what we produce, namely food, and the amount is city produced performer times and workers. Our sales are none. So, and let's rename these to new. Our sales are just empty sales. And our consumption is, first we need work. And how much work do we need? Well, exactly the amount of workers that this farm should have. We need products, and this is slightly more complicated. Basically, every worker that works in a business consumes products, and agriculture in particular consumes products depending on the amount of food it produces. This is just done to model the demand for fertilizers, for example, where farms require industry. And we require services, also proportional to the amount of workers that we have. Alright, now we can remove all of this here and have this much more declarative way of writing our consumption, production, and sales. And let's try to keep the order consistent again. And we should maybe now check if it still works properly. If we have an initial demand, what's going on? It froze, kind of. Why? That's strange. Okay, cannot read property food of undefined, city 19. We have to make sure given values okay, now is there some demand for food? There is. So if we zone agricultural, everything should still work. We see some farm. Let's check out households. We have our farm here. Get daily consumption works. Daily production seems to work, and daily sales seems to work. And for our city total, city daily production. Okay, now here of course we also have the neighboring cities in there. But okay, this seems to work still fine, so we can continue with our refactoring. So let's continue with our normal worker household. Let's again keep the order consistent. Consumption, production, sales. So consumption, we have food. We have products. And we have services. Production we have none, and sales we offer work. Oh, we don't even need to write those as strings. I forgot about that. Does not WebKit support console table? Wow, I never heard about that. What is console table? Wow, that's amazing. Let's check. seems to support it, so we can do city daily production, and we get nothing. Why? So it doesn't work. Apparently not. That's strange. But I will check that out later again. Yeah, slightly cleaner code, exactly. I think we will see some really nice cleanup today. So work, we offer and adults. Okay. So now we can remove all of this. Let's continue. Consumption, production, sales. We consume product. No, wait. We produce products. We consume this stuff here. Can remove all of this. Can we? Yes, we can. Okay. Now let's continue here. Consumption, production, sales. We but shouldn't the factory have, did we forget something? Consumption, production, yeah, we forgot about production of products, which is of course bad, because without that our factories don't make any sense. Okay, but now we can remove it, yes. I don't think we need this console log anymore. Or let's just disable them. Okay, food vendor. Consumption, production, sales. Consumption is this. No production, but we have sales. Let me know if you guys enjoy watching this at all. For me, it's just kind of really peaceful kind of task. That's a good idea. I kind of want to model preferences for certain products or shops at some point, but right now they're all equal. And using a random number as an identifier is a good quick first way to do that. Okay, let's continue with our mixed vendor. Consumption, production, sales. is this here. Oops. Makes sense. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm going to think about how I want to incorporate that. Alright, product vendor, and then we're almost done. Consumption, production, sales. Ah, I see. That's interesting. Sales is just products. By the way, I don't know if oh well, it just started playing something else. Okay, but I really enjoyed your album, F-Zero, if you're still around. Okay, we did that. Okay, office, consumption, production, sales. Yeah, I stopped playing music because I had too many problems with Twitch's and YouTube's content ID systems going wild, even though I played Creative Commons music. So now I'm just listening to my own music and not streaming it, and you can listen to whatever you want. Right, services. Okay. Remove this. Now for our neighboring city, this will be more interesting. Consumption, production, sales. Here we still just have hard-coded numbers, so this is production. Let's be careful to not mix them up. Consumption is here. And we only need sales. Okay, we can remove that. And now let's check if everything still works properly. Yeah, that's also a great idea, to kind of a mixture of automation and community help. I will have to see where I can employ that principle. Okay, everything seems to work good. Wait, we got an exception there. Okay, but that's a bug in the road user interface. That's okay. Everything else works. So from time to time, let's have a look at our Git log to see what changed. That's always interesting. So we added some stuff here. And yeah, removed a lot of stuff here. Okay. What could we do next? There are a lot of parameters that are just part of this city module that we could refactor into something like a simulation parameter module. What do you think about putting them somewhere else? Let me see what else we can do. No, they come from, yeah, okay, they come from the animation frame loop, but still I would rather have the game continue on at this early stage rather than it breaking down completely. Okay. one other thing that I want to work on next is these load and save functions. You can see that they are very verbose and repetitive and kind of low level unnecessarily. So let's first move these parameters here to their own file, and then let's continue with that. So how are we going to call that? Maybe, what do you think about simulation parameters? Or something short, because we will use that a lot. Is simparams too stupid? Maybe just sim. This will, yeah, let's just call it sim for now, even though that's stupid. And we'll try to put all of these constants that we have here in there instead. I don't get what you mean with model view separation. I don't do that at all. Like I wouldn't even know how to apply that here. The problem is that if I can't do high level serialization like JSON because it takes much too long and the data produces much too large, I have to actually write my own custom binary format, and that's why the load and save functionality is so verbose. That's interesting. Okay, I didn't know about it, and you found me on R programming. I didn't know that someone posted that. But guys, what is model view separation in a game? What does it even mean? Like, seriously, explain this to me. Of course I get how it works for web applications, but how would you apply it in a game? Okay, so let's do a replace. Can we do find in files? That's what we want to do. We want to find city, and we will have to do that for all of them. Where add folder, just all of this. Replace it with sim. .knowledge imperfection replace. What? Replace. Okay. Then we want to replace competition factor. I will have a look at DevTV later. That sounds like a really interesting idea. Okay, I'm sorry, but we will have to go through all of these and do a quick replace. Lacking a proper IDE to automate such a task. Please bear with me while I'm doing that. Yeah, sure. In a way, it is separated like that, but how does that help with serialization? I mean, I of course only serialize the state. I don't serialize any rendering related stuff. This gets all rebuilt when the data is loaded again. Yeah, but then I kind of do that without, I don't know, calling it that explicitly, because I only save state, of course, nothing extra. All right, did we do that? Okay. Yeah, okay, but then I understand you guys correctly. Of course, I don't save any 3D model, UI state, etc. I save only the bare metadata that is needed. No, it's okay, I was imprecise. The problem is not that I'm saving too much stuff, I'm saving the bare minimum. The problem is the way the function is written is much too verbose. And I will explain that in a second when we have a look at it. Okay, I get slowly what you mean. The problem is that it isn't generic yet because some of the relations between different entities that exist in the game work differently, and we will have a look about that. Yeah, we'll have a look about that in a second. But maybe we might be able to come up with something generic, which would of course be awesome. Yeah, but I don't think I can work with a full-blown database and change state like I do now with the traffic simulation, for example, like 1,000,000 times a second. That just doesn't work. Of course, it would be nice to have a full database, but I don't need that most of the time. I only need that when I'm saving something. Okay. Let's save all of these files. Load our new file. Also something that we can work on. to automate loading. Okay, I don't think, no, we don't need to do anything here. Let's check if everything still works. Yep, seems to work. Yeah, I get the difference between a document store and a full database, but even a document store, the performance is just way too bad for me to use it to store traffic state, for example. Okay, so I think we should do a commit at this point, because we will do something different in a second. Cleaned up household type definitions and moved simulation parameters from city to new sim module. Okay, so now let's have a look at the save game feature and how we might be able to simplify that. What would be a good example? Okay, for example, here we have the function that that saves all the data that we have for one citizen. And as you can see, what is the problem here? Oh, whoops. If we, for example, look at what a citizen is represented like in game, we see that we want to store its ID. We have an ID, it has a household and workplace. It can be in a specific location. He owns a car, he has happiness, he keeps track of how many meals he had today, how much time he wants to spend in the building he's currently at, when was the last time he looked for a job, and whether he's foreign, which means if he's from another city. So now let's have a look at the save and load function for citizens. Here we basically only write a couple things: his ID, the ID of his car, his happiness, the amount of meals, and the time left in building. The location we store separately, because that depends on other things to be loaded already. But as you can see here, it's kind of really stupidly written, because you first need to calculate how much bytes you actually need to store this information. In the case of citizens, it's pretty straightforward, because this never changes. You have exactly those fields that you want to store, and then we do something very low level. We basically have this this address that we want to write to in our buffer that we are going to save, in our binary buffer that we are going to save. So maybe let's here on the right in a new file just invent what we want it to look like, or save functionality. And I will do that after I get some more water, so I'll be right back. Yeah, sure, you can do something like inflection. The problem is, for example, if you look at this here, you see that we don't want to save a citizen's car because that gets already saved elsewhere. What we want to do is just to save the ID of the car so we can have the relation. So we actually want to implement something a little bit like database schemas, where we describe which fields we want to save and which relations we want to save. So yeah. Yeah, I only want to store specific bits, but still there can be a much nicer way of writing that. So let me, here on the right, try to write what I would like that to look like. So save citizens would be create saver, and then let's try to write what we have here using only data. So how about something like we write the property that we want to save, for example .id, and then we write the low-level data type that we want to save it as. So int32 big endian, for example, and then .car.id. I'm just inventing something here. Let's see what this looks like in the end. Happiness, and we want to do that for, this is our collection. Happiness we want to store as an int 8. And meals today, again this time int 8. And then time left in building. I guess we can actually drop the first dot because we will have that always. Time left in building, float. Oh, what? Float? Just float? Okay, float big endian. And wouldn't it be awesome if that is all we had to do for the saver? Now okay, let me close my window and then think about how we could define the loader. I think the problem is that there is no such a thing as a generic serializable object. Like, we will actually have to specify by hand in which format we want to save something. For example, in JavaScript all numbers are floats, but we want to store happiness as an int 8 because we don't want it to take up more space. Do you know what I mean by that? So I don't think we can do it in such a generic way. yeah, we can't do this because maybe we want to store the ID in a different binary format than happiness. Yeah, but how do you give them types? You specify a tuple of values and a tuple of types, or what? Hold on, someone is calling me and it's kind of important. I'm going to answer that and I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Okay, I get what you mean, but isn't that kind of what I'm doing? Like, you can imagine this object here as a tuple of values and a tuple of types, no? I mean, isn't that exactly what I'm doing? Okay. Now, how would we define the loader based on that? It would be nice if we could get both from the same declaration, because then they always fit together, which has been a problem in the past. So we want, let's call this collection. Let's call this schema. We want, how do we want to do that? I see, yeah. That, okay. Yeah, we don't have a defined order. I understand. I mean, I guess JavaScript has an order internally, but that's not part of the spec, so maybe we shouldn't use that. Why would that help? why would accessor functions help? No, I'm not screwed because I actually have a system that describes the dependencies between different loading and saving functions. And the one for citizens, let's check that. Where is that? Come on. You can see here that that citizens actually depend on cars being already loaded. So we can use that. That's true, but we will need to have some generic model of kind of entity relationships in there if we want to do it in a nice way. I don't understand how that would help. I mean, it's really hard to communicate with you just with text and with the additional delay that the stream brings. I mean, I will try to incorporate your ideas. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. This is the hard part. How do we do this? But how about something like How about we do that only for fields where it is necessary? For example, how about we do something like this? This can be more complex. Let's call this format. And create a load function. Just for this one field. What do you think about this? Oops. Not necessarily. And I don't see why that would be necessary to do. Yeah, cars are loaded before citizens, and we specified that dependency, and if we get circular dependencies, the system will complain. Okay. Okay, I actually like that idea, and we might be able to do it in a slightly more dirty way without the Okay, so how about something? Let's go back and do something like so we want here to, let's call this relation. Relation to an object in the collection cars. Please keep that question for the next Q&A section, Obrit. Yeah, it's performance and file size. It's ridiculous. I tried it. Like just a city with like thousands of inhabitants would be like several gigabytes of save file information. That's just stupid. But I don't need to avoid conflicts. They are separate collections. I don't think that just writing cars is enough. Like this. I don't think that just the array is enough information, because, or maybe it is actually, let me think. No, because even if they are all in one collection, some of them might still be initialized before others, and you still need to worry about the order in which you do things. I mean, okay, let's try out our model that we created here with another file. So let's do something. How about a car, for example? Car is more complicated. Yeah, but I'm not sure if just putting an array there is enough information, because we might use array for something else later, as you might see. It will make sense then. Alright, so schema. What do we want to write? ID. And then we can actually drop these even, maybe. Oh, I think I'd mixed them up then. I always get confused about that. But I don't think that makes that much of a difference. Alright, let's try to do cars. So ID is in 32BE again. Then we have a car type. Type is a uint8. Position is a float b. By Flowgeneer. Lane ID. Now that's interesting. So what we actually want is something called lane, and that's again a relation. Lanes. Yeah, the thing is that I have other stuff in the saving and loading functionality that is way slower than the difference between little and big endian writing. But it's good to keep in mind. lane, destination lane, again relation to lanes. Destination position, float BE. Okay, now we want to do more stuff. Create will be a function. Return this. Yeah, for that I usually use ID -1 because objects can have ID 0 but not -1. But now we have something interesting again, and that is that the max velocity field is dependent on the type of the car. So how would we do that? I guess we'll have to do that in our init function. Okay, that's fine though. So we have to create something like init. Why do you think it's the wrong value? Why do you think it's the wrong place? RG. Okay. Yeah, but why do we need to save max velocity if it's only dependent on the type of the car? I would rather recalculate something than to make the save file bigger. Yeah, exactly, and having a slightly different max velocity doesn't matter too much. Yeah, so I think this would be everything that we need for cars. Acceleration, and actually you see how much I'm really trying to shave off there. I don't even save velocity or acceleration of a car. These are set to 0, and when you load a map, all the cars have to take 2 seconds to start going again, but that's fine. I'd rather have that than a bigger save file. So we don't need that, that doesn't make sense. Velocity 0, we have to set all of these. Okay. Actually, we also don't have to set these. Because we can't do that because max velocity is one of the things that will be looked up a million times a second during traffic simulation, and we can't afford to have a memorize function there. But it's really great that you guys keep asking me this stuff. It really makes me think about how I implement stuff, and I hope for you it's also interesting to hear about that. But doesn't memorization still require a function call? Because it's no longer just property lookup, you actually need to call a function, which will either return the memorized value or calculate it, right? But even the function call is too much. I wouldn't be so sure about that in all cases. You actually have to see if that works. But I mean, why can't we just do it on load? That's fine. Okay. So now we need to think about how we actually convert this into something like this. And one idea would be to... let me think about that. I mean, we could either make something analyze the structure and call all the appropriate functions. Yeah, that's what we will have to do. Okay. So how would we implement create saver and loader? First, let's create the save function. And we want to iterate over each item in our... first we want to create a buffer of the appropriate length. So... we need to have I think we should actually generate JavaScript, because I was trying to interpret it, but this needs to be really, really fast. So let's actually try to, okay, but then we might need to do things a little differently. Hold on, we need citizens. These are no longer values, but they will refer to variable names rather, which is a little bit ugly, but it will be much faster because we can actually afford to generate JavaScript. Yeah. Okay, let me think. Oh, where's our, okay. Okay, actually, I just realized that I might want to work on something different first, because it will also make saving and loading cleaner. Oh no, do I want to do that now? Yes, probably. Yeah, I think I will do this save feature stuff off stream. I can remember what we did here. And we will work on something different instead that's actually more important. And the other thing that I want to work on is, you can basically see it here. We often have this problem, or I often have this problem, that there's a collection of things, for example cars, and it's just this array that we write to, and each car has its own unique ID. The problem is what happens if we delete a car or a citizen or a building. Right now I just delete them from the list, and then in the list there's an empty entry. But this means that every time I want to iterate over the list, I have to check if the car is actually there, and I can no longer use this length field. So how about we introduce something like an efficient collection of objects with IDs, because this is something that I need very often, that can handle deletion and reassignment of IDs dynamically. Let's do that. I will go on a short break, eat something, we will do a Q&A session, and then for the final hour we will try to work on that, okay? Alright, so be right back. Alright, I'm back. Yeah, I will actually implement a dead list. We will do that in a second, but first let's do some really short Q&A. Just as an excuse for me to eat something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it would be nice to have do you know why Game Dev Tycoon has massive performance issues? Is there something to be worried about with Citybound? Why do you ask? Because they also use JavaScript or what? But I mean, Game Dev Tycoon is not a resource-intensive game, is it? I mean, it's, as soon as I remember, mostly 2D. It doesn't really calculate a lot, so I would just write it down to bad programming. Of course, JavaScript still is slower than native languages, but the bigger challenge is actually writing smart algorithms, so that doesn't matter too much. How do I feel about backseat drivers like you? I think it's really fun, although communication is really hard. And you're of course not in my head, so sometimes it might not be clear what I mean, and we talk kind of next to each other. But I think it's great. I mean, I can just choose to ignore your suggestions if I feel like they don't make sense, but a lot of it is actually really valuable. Yeah, but a few hundred of anything shouldn't be a problem with today's computers. It's probably just the way they render them. With busy work schedule, do you still get time to just play games? Perhaps research citizen elements? That could be good. Yeah, I definitely want to check out Train Fever as well as Tropico, and I don't even have time to play games just for enjoyment right now. But when I do, I definitely want to kind of make use and try some other city building games that I've only seen in videos or heard about so far. What style do you want the game music to be like? I don't know if you pay attention to the music that I've used as intros and outros in the update videos that I do each week, but this has actually been real music written by the two musicians that I took on board, and this is kind of what you can expect. Kind of mostly, I don't even know how to describe it, like jazz-oriented instrumental backgroundy music. That's an interesting review. The map size right now is limited to 50 by 50 kilometers, but that should be extendable almost indefinitely. The problem is, of course, actually running a city this big. And that's where the biggest challenge is, I think, to get the performance good enough to handle such big cities. I'm going to deliver the game as a executable only inside, packaged inside Node WebKit. Alright, do you still plan on releasing the alpha in October? I think that's kind of unrealistic because October will be a very busy month for me. I will just have to see about that. I will definitely not design the game for the lowest common denominator. I will try to make at least small towns runnable on old hardware, but people with good hardware will definitely be rewarded. As I said a few times, most of the game logic will actually be completely uncompressed and yeah, plain source if you buy the game. And only some of the engine code will be obfuscated, so you will actually be able to make perfect sense of everything. Right now it's basically only running on one core. I didn't do any parallelization at all because it's kind of hard to do with JavaScript, or not as straightforward at least. But I will explore that possibility in the future. But for now, we'll try to get it as run as well in just one core. Right. I will get some water and then we will continue. Yeah, exactly. I will have to check out web workers. My biggest worry is that the overhead due to communication between the threads is so big that it's not worth it in the first place, but I will just have to experiment with that. Alright, so let's actually start to implement what I was talking about. Let's create something. How should we call that? This will have a very generic name, but how about compact entity collection? Yeah, let's just call it that. I should maybe remove the Q&A text. Okay. What style of climate and to what extent do you have in... okay. Definitely replenish the water table, maybe visual effects. Oh wow, effects on traffic, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that. I will have to think about that, but weather is not something I will implement soon. Yeah, but maybe there might be a smarter way to do that. But I will think about that in the future. Alright, so we wanted compact entity collection, and we're actually going to use JavaScript's prototype orientedness here. So we will actually, hold on for a second. This array, this, can we use length? I think we can use length. This, how should we call the dead list? Let's call it free IDs. Okay. Okay, so compact collection, prototype, what? Prototype, add, let's call it add, function entity, Okay, so if we want to add something, free ID equals free IDs, what is it, pop? Or which one do we want to use? Which one makes sense? Where is MDN? We want pop last element. Yeah, that makes sense. We want to have a first in first out for them. If it doesn't, it returns undefined. Okay. If free ID, how do you properly check for undefined again? Or no, let me. You do 0. JavaScript always confuses me about the truthiness of values. So I will have to find out. Okay, so no. So how do you properly check for that? Why do I have to handle the slot 0 especially? I don't understand that. Freddy's pop or this length. Oh no, or array length, that's true. Oh no, but that's correct. But if both of them are 0, it still returns 0. Like if this is, no, if this is undefined and array length is 0, it returns 0, so that's fine. Hi, Kylan. Alright. So, entity ID is ID. This array ID is entity. This length plus plus. I think that's all we need to do here. So next we can define compact entity collection prototype remove function entity. Ah, I see. No, let's just do it like this. Okay, what do we need to do? We need to delete this array entity ID. We need this length minus this free IDs. Push entity ID. I thought delete just sets it to null. Ah, well, that's true. We should use that for arrays. Okay, so I think we can actually start using that. Yeah, you're right. I forgot that it only does it for objects. Okay, so how about we start using it for citizens, for example? Oh, this array length. Correct, thanks. I don't think I will do a for each because in most cases we will actually iterate using for loops anyways. We can maybe shorten the name of array to just A. So let's see. Remove citizen. This becomes straightforward. This should all be fine. Where do we actually use citizens? So what would be the proper way? I know, but again, we need to do some stuff dirty to make it faster. Can't afford to create functions for all of that. So what would be the proper way to iterate over that? I mean, I think just like this, we iterate over it. Just have to be careful to start using that everywhere. Okay, here we can now finally remove this because we now have a proper length. We might want to add a set function to write a specific citizen. Yeah, the problem is how do we do deserialization, because there we actually, yeah, citizen's length is valid. We created a new one. It returns the actual number of entries, not the length of the array. That's its purpose. Now the question is, what happens when we load citizens, for example, and we just start writing them to more or less random IDs? Then we don't have our free ID list, right? So we might need to rebuild that one. Yeah. Okay, so let's first add a set. And then no, but the add function also gives the entity its ID. Because the ID is always connected to its position in the list, so you can look it up. We also want this function where we rebuild our free IDs. This length contains the actual amount of entries without empty slots, because the length of the array will be longer than the amount of entities in there. Maybe we should, I don't know, but length is fine, I think. so after we load, we should here we use set. No, because we might set an entity into an empty. Remember okay, maybe I should rename this. This dot length, I will rename that to count, just to be sure that it's not the array length. So here okay, let's try to use it. So let's try working with it. And let's start comparing them. See, now it removed a bunch of citizens because their buildings got removed. So now our count is 142, our length are equal, which means that it reused IDs. Now if we delete the building, yeah, okay, we can't really see that here, but it seems to work. Let's check citizens, free IDs. Okay, it actually manages a list of free IDs. Now they got used up. That's awesome. If we delete some, we have a long list of free IDs that should slowly become shorter as new citizens come back. All right, seems to work. Now if we save and then load, okay, we have a problem. Citizens 145. What did I miss? Cannot read property building of null. 145, where is it? What? doesn't save the household. Ah, stop it, stop it. Okay, I think I need to kill the process actually. So something about the household wasn't saved. I'm not writing all the citizens. Why? Yeah, but that's fine. Yeah, but I only saved them. I only saved them if the entry actually exists, so I should save the right number of citizens. Yeah, I am skipping them. Here, using this, I'm skipping them. No problem. Okay, let's just try again and try to catch the exception. I will try a different streaming platform soon. That's called Hitbox, I think, and they apparently have less stream-like. Okay, so what did I want to do? I wanted to save and then listen to exceptions, load. Okay, what is our exception here? Cannot read property what of what. Okay. Okay, citizen household is null. Citizen is... We don't set the household. Why doesn't he have a household? That's bad. So what's his ID? 0. Okay, it doesn't even... Yeah, he doesn't have anything set. That's strange. Ah, I know why. Because of course citizens isn't only used in this file but also in other files. Again, ghost encapsulation reads from the future. Oh, now we need to think about everywhere where citizen is used. So households use citizens. Oh crap. So let's find this. Okay, only here. This needs to become A. Okay, let's reload. I think we should be able to open it now. No. No. Oh no, property lane of null. Catch that exception. Car is an object, household is an object. Source building, okay. Yeah, but then again, just for accessing it, I need a function call. I'm not sure that V8 can inline that all the time. Yeah, it's really a shame that you can't overload them. So what is our trip? Source building? Oh, but where was it created? Our workplace, okay. I think I actually need to do a... Okay, these are all the occurrences here. Where else? I think I actually need to do a find in files. Okay, sensitive. Of course, in citizens, city. Okay, we changed it there. We have it there. Ah, and transport.js. Okay. So in transport.js, citizen. What now? Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, maybe we should use a new save file. Let's save and let's load. Stop it. Okay, we always get this problem. Oh, that's interesting that there's no set. The question is it as performant as native arrays? I kind of doubt that. Okay, we don't have a source building, that's interesting. And what would that idea be? Okay, but our problem here seems to be something completely unrelated, and that is that our car doesn't have a parked at set. Why is that? That's actually a really interesting idea. But I actually really like that. Yeah, exactly. This is the only thing that you have to remember, but I like that idea so much that I will just write it down like this. I will have to end the stream soon. I think I will do it like this in the future. It's a little cleaner and nicer. Necessarily, you don't even need to start at e equals 1, because if you do the null check, oh no, forget about what I just said, that doesn't make sense. Okay. Okay, I need to end the stream a little earlier today, but I think we have time for a final Q&A section. Also, let me know how you liked watching today. We kind of didn't get a lot done, but have some nice ideas on how to clean up the code in the future. So yeah, just let me know how you liked it, and let me know any questions that you have. I will get some water before I answer them. Yeah, I think I've read about everything about JavaScript performance that exists on the web like 3 times. But thanks for the tip. And yeah, let me say I really appreciate you guys watching and giving your own ideas. It's a really fun way to do it. Someone described it as distributed pair programming, and that's really what it feels like for me. Yeah, I think I learned also a lot about the nitty-gritty details about V8. I had to adjust for the traffic simulation. And that's actually the reason why a lot of the code looks like it looks, because I have to do some very dirty stuff to make it as quick as possible in V8. But if I have specific answers, it's great to know that I can ask you. Quite a lot of viewers still, that's interesting. All right, any final questions you guys have? Because if not, I'm going to end it a little early today, so I have some time to start uploading the last live stream and this one on YouTube before I have to go. All right, so thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's refactoring live stream. I certainly did. Even though we didn't do that much, I think we discovered a lot of potential future fixes and areas that you can make cleaner. And I got some great input from you guys. So yeah, thank you again for watching and see you all soon. Have a nice evening, morning, night, whatever it is. Bye bye. Take care.